Escaping from Samsara, the amount of seawater and tears. This story unfolds as the Buddha answers questions from young monks while staying in Sravasti. The monks ask the Buddha about the teachings of non-Buddhist ascetics. These non-Buddhist teachings claim that regardless of good or bad deeds, the results of actions do not return. In response, the Buddha emphasizes the basic Buddhist principle of causality, that the results of actions always return. This suggests the importance of ethical behavior and expresses the idea that the good or evil of one's actions deeply influences one's personal destiny. It portrays the inevitable suffering and sorrow in life, showing that they are part of the cycle of existence. This teaches the necessity of spiritual inquiry to transcend suffering. Overall, while clearly conveying the core teachings of Buddhism, this story gives the monks and readers an opportunity to deeply reflect on life, actions, and enlightenment. And in this story, the amount of tears shows the depth and universality of life's suffering, emphasizing the importance of seeking spiritual growth and the path to enlightenment. At the same time, it highlights the commonality of human experience and conveys a powerful message that promotes deeper empathy and understanding. This happened when the Buddha was staying in Sravasti. Early in the morning, several monks visited the Buddha.
World-honored one, yesterday I heard a non-Buddhist ascetic teaching people. He said that whether one does good or bad, the retribution does not return.
World-honored one, I also heard a non-Buddhist ascetic teaching such things yesterday. He said that no matter how much effort one makes, there is no effect.
Is our practice meaningless? Are the good and the wicked the same after death?
As the two monks began to speak in this way, another one sitting next to them pleaded with the Buddha.
We discussed whether what they said was true or not, but we couldn't reach a conclusion. So we came here like this. World-honored one, please tell us the truth.
Is that so? Monks, then answer my question. Those born in this world must die. And this fate of dying and being reborn is difficult to change, but do you understand this?
Yes, we understand.
These monks had probably not been the Buddha's disciples for long. After asking a very simple question first, the Buddha further questioned them.
Now, monks, let's assume there are two people who have left this world. One was reborn as a heavenly being, and the other was reborn in hell. One tastes the joys of heaven, while the other suffers the pains of hell. What on earth caused the two to be reborn in completely different ways?
World-honored one, isn't it because of the goodness or wickedness of their actions in this world?
That's right. Monks, if those who did good deeds and those who did bad deeds in this world were not reborn in any different way, all human beings would have to be reborn in the same way. There are definitely different rewards for good and bad deeds.
I understand. World-honored one, as long as good and bad results exist, the goodness or wickedness of the actions that caused them must be questioned.
By the way, monks, human beings are reborn and die many times over, but how long have they been repeating the cycle of rebirth and death?
The monks leaned forward, waiting for the Buddha's answer instead of answering themselves.
No one knows the beginning. It is from an immeasurably distant past.
World-honored one, even if one does good deeds and is reborn in a good place, if one repeats the cycle of rebirth and death so immeasurably, it is obvious that one will fall into the world of suffering again. Is it impossible to escape from this repetition forever?
If one does not know the truth and is trapped by desire, that person will never be able to escape from the repetition of the suffering of rebirth and death. That repetition is called samsara. To escape from the suffering of samsara, one must abandon desire, shake off attachment, realize the truth, and attain enlightenment. That is the only way to escape from the suffering of samsara.
World-honored one, I understand well.
Monks, Let's say there are 4 great oceans filled with seawater here. And there are the tears you have shed while being reborn and dying up until now. You have repeated the cycle of rebirth and death for an unimaginably long time. Lamenting when meeting those you dislike, grieving when parting from those you like. And you must have shed tears each time. Now, if you compare the amount of seawater in these great oceans with the amount of tears you have shed, which do you think is greater?
The monks remained silent for a while, but eventually one of them spoke up.
World-honored one, based on what you just said, I think the amount of tears shed while being reborn and dying is greater than the amount of water in the great oceans.
That's right. All living beings, in the long cycle of samsara, encounter the deaths of their mothers and their own children many times, lose their relatives and lose their possessions. The tears they shed each time are far more than the seawater of the great oceans. That is why you should strive to escape from this world of samsara as soon as possible.
I understand, world-honored one.
The monks said this and left the Buddha's presence, but all their faces were bright and clear. In this story, the metaphor of the amount of seawater and tears has a deep meaning and several important points. This metaphor symbolically expresses the depth and extent of the suffering and sorrow experienced in the process of rebirth. The description of the amount of tears surpassing the vastness of the 4 great oceans signifies the universality and accumulation of the pain experienced by human beings. And the expression that the amount of tears exceeds the seawater indicates the magnitude of the suffering brought about by the cycle of samsara. The sadness of loss and separation experienced in life accumulates in the repeatedly occurring samsara and becomes an immeasurable amount. This shows the importance of seeking spiritual growth and enlightenment to escape from the suffering of samsara. It teaches that inner transformation and high spirituality are necessary to break free from the continuous suffering. Also, the comparison of seawater and tears shows the impermanence and volatility of life. It reflects the Buddhist teaching that separation from loved ones and unavoidable sorrow are unchanging truths of life. The lessons of this story are very useful in modern life as well. The following points are particularly noteworthy. The first is the law of cause and effect and individual responsibility. The story emphasizes the causal relationship between actions and their consequences. This teaches us in the present day to be aware of the impact of our own actions and the importance of acting responsibly. The second is the pursuit of inner peace. The story shows the importance of finding truth beyond desire and attachment and pursuing inner peace. In modern society, where there is a lot of stress and anxiety, this lesson is useful for improving mental health and a sense of well-being. The third is enlightenment and self-awareness. The story emphasizes the importance of attaining enlightenment through inner insight. This is also effective for modern people as a way to deepen self-awareness and promote personal growth. The fourth is patience and adaptation. The parable of the suffering of samsara shows the need for patience and adaptation to overcome life's difficulties and challenges. This is a lesson that helps individuals overcome the various obstacles they face in today's rapidly changing society. The fifth is empathy and understanding. By recognizing the universality of human suffering, we can deepen our empathy and understanding for others. This plays an important role in building a more harmonious society. The sixth is the importance of an ethical life. By focusing on the results of good and bad deeds, the importance of an ethical life is emphasized. This encourages considering the impact of personal choices on others and society as a whole. From these 6 points overall, this story teaches the grave significance of an individual's actions and the importance of inner growth, and provides guidelines for us in the present day to live a more meaningful and fulfilling life. On the other hand, when applying the lessons of this story to modern life, the following points should be considered. The first is sensitivity to cultural and religious diversity. The teachings of Buddhism were born from a specific cultural and religious background. In today's diverse society, it is important to respect people with different religious beliefs and values. Therefore, there must be quite a few people who sympathize with the views of the non-Buddhist ascetics in the story. We should not selfishly criticize such people. The second is the danger of excessive introspection. While there is value in pursuing inner peace and enlightenment, if one becomes too absorbed in introspection, there is a possibility of becoming distanced from real-world problems and obligations. A balanced approach is necessary. The third is how to avoid fatalistic thinking. The teachings of causality and samsara can sometimes lead to fatalistic thinking. In other words, by thinking that all events are predetermined, the importance of an individual's proactive actions and choices may be underestimated. You should not arbitrarily convince yourself that my future is doomed. The fourth is harmony with reality. When applying spiritual teachings to real life, it is important to consider the balance with the realities of modern society. For example, devoting oneself to spiritual pursuits while ignoring professional responsibilities and social obligations may have a negative impact on real life. The fifth is consistency with scientific evidence. Spiritual teachings and religious beliefs often contain unscientific elements. In modern society, it is recommended to consider consistency with scientific understanding and engage in thinking based on empirical evidence. The sixth is harmony with individualism. The teachings of Buddhism often place more emphasis on an individual's inner growth than on the collective, but modern society tends to emphasize individualism. Therefore, it is necessary to avoid becoming too self-centered and not forget one's responsibilities to others and society. The lessons of this story provide many useful insights in modern life, but when putting them into practice, it is important to consider various factors such as those mentioned above.